Hello, welcome to another Retro Sheep review. This time we're going to be looking at a game called Octoplex on the Amstrad CPC 464. And this was a game released in 1989, there by good old Mastertronic, as you can see. At first I was a little bit excited. I thought this was going to be an Amstrad exclusive, but it did have a Commodore 64 release as well. So just for the sake of comparison, let's have a look at the competition. Nearly identical title screen there, loading screen. Only main difference really is the sort of palettes. You've got the nice brighter one with the Amstrad and the slightly more washed out one with the Commodore. And you may have noticed there as well, the word Lothlorien. And this came about because of the former trading names of two of the members. The first of these was a chap called Mike Cohen, who was originally operating under the name of MC Associates Trading, and the second chap was someone called Roger Lees, who was operating under the name of Lothlorien Trading. And so then the full name, MC Lothlorien Limited, was born. And for those of you who know your Tolkien and your Lord of the Rings, Lothlorien is also the name of the Elven Forest in the world of Tolkien, so if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, I do apologise to die-hard Tolkien fans. And in 1986, they reportedly merged with A&F Software, and they were responsible for things like Chucky Egg, so they were in good company. Although this game seems to have been released under the old MC Lothlorien title, and the coming together of A&F and Lothlorien was to create Icon Design Limited. So onto the game, and you may have noticed when we started playing this Commodore version, we got a nice little sort of intro animation which showed the story of the wizard transforming you into that green mutant that you see there. But the game itself, well, there are 8 levels in total, and there are 2 parts to each level. The first part, you've got to do what we're doing here. You've got to walk over all the floor to create an electron trail. And when you've done that, what the instruction booklet calls subatomic crystals, they are released into the maze, and you've then got to collect those before you can proceed to the next level. On this level 1, there'll be just the 1 crystal to pick up, but there'll be more on the future levels as we go along. So the first part of the level plays like Oh Mummy, really, just covering the floor, and then you collect the crystals to finish off the level. So there we are, there's an electron trail completed, and we've just picked up the crystal. That's level 1 complete, on to level 2. So, yep, we move along, and the enemies get progressively harder as well. They get more numerous the further you get into the maze. And, yeah, by the time you get to level 8, the mazes are quite complex. And that green enemy you see there, they can shoot at you as well, so you've got to be very careful. As you can see there, just avoided that. Yeah, and what we're jumping around the screen there, more on that later. We're using warp crystals. So by the time you get to the end of the Commodore version, what do you get? What do you get in terms of a game complete message? Absolutely nothing. Straight back to level 1. And it gets even worse. The electron trail is already complete here. We're not actually colouring in any of the floor. And I've been around this over and over again, and there's no way to complete this level. So you complete the 8 levels and you're locked into level 1 just to die. Here today, gone tomorrow. Yeah, the weapon sounds a bit squeaky on the Commodore. But yeah, you've got no choice now but to just wander around and either lose all your lives or just wait for the time to run out. A little bit disappointing. Just onto the high score table. So that's Octoplex on the Commodore 64. We'll now move on to the Amstrad version, the main feature of this video. So as usual, a quick look at the cassette box before we get started. What do you get in the box? Well, there is your sleeve, Octoplex there, the leg of that man being transformed at the point there. There's the spine, and on the back there, deep in the heart of a giant molecular compound, imprisoned by the evil wizard Zolt, you have but one desperate wish: to escape. So there's the mad Mastertronic tape. It only takes 5 minutes to load this, so it's quite quick. Printed on one side. So we'll take a closer look at the sleeve now, and yep, there you go, a few screenshots. Available for the 464, 664 and 6128. And it'll give you a lot of information there as well about how to complete the levels and things that, things are given specific names, or the central molecular lattice and all that sort of stuff. Electron paths, warp crystals. It's all there to give us a sporting chance for being given 3 lives by Zolt as well. And there's the classic Mastertronic programmers don't be duped. Nobody does it better, apparently. Mastertronic certainly did publish some good stuff. So on to the main menu. No animation of any kind in the Amstrad menu, but quite a nice Octoplex graphic there, good font. Mastertronic 1989, programmed by Alan Montgomery, with graphics by N. Thompson. You may have noticed on the Commodore version it was programmed by a J. Buckley and L. Corley. So different programmers, different graphical artists, but the same, the great Tiny Williams with the music on both versions. And so off we go. And immediately you notice that this scrolls beautifully. We are absolutely pinned to the centre of the screen, and it's very smooth scrolling. And we also jumped straight into the game there. We didn't get the opening animation that we had on the Commodore. But one thing I would say is, in my opinion anyway, I think it's a lot easier to see the electron trail that you're laying down here. The contrast between the sort of pale blue and the red is it's quite stark. You can see very clearly where you've been and where you need to go. And so we'll just continue around the maze. There we go, electron trail completed. Now the trail doesn't flash like it does in the Commodore. You can just see at the bottom of the screen there, that red, or we did see, that little red square, that showed us that the crystals had been released. Or the crystal, just one crystal for level 1 in that case. And so you've got 8 levels of that. So there'll be probably a couple of crystals released on this level. And they will increase a bit as you go along. It'll be 8 crystals by the time you get to level 8. Also, you may have noticed for this level 2, this position here just north of us, that is where we started on the Commodore version. But for this Amstrad version, we started in the bottom left of the maze. So a quick word about what's going on here. Those gates, like that one we just went through, they open and close periodically. They're just totally random. Or, well, they're on a timer anyway. You have no control over them then, we'll say that. That number 3 there, that means that if you walk over that, gate number 3 will be opened or shut. And that is the same for all these numbers there. That'll be gate number 1. And we just picked up a sort of a small black dot there. That is our first warp crystal. That's been stored there in the bottom left of our sort of heads-up display. Those lighter circles in the bottom left, that's the number of shots we've got, the amount of ammunition we can fire at enemies and kill them, but they do respawn, so be careful about that. And they do have a tendency sometimes to spawn on top of you, so it can be a case of bad luck sometimes. You can lose a life very cheaply. But yes, 1 warp crystal as well at the moment we have in the bottom left. You notice we've got a timing ribbon there, that sort of green, yellow, red ribbon there that's slowly depleting. We had a digital clock on the Commodore version, but we've got the timing ribbon here. And it's, there we go, it's the last crystal. it's good to not waste shots as well. You can carry 10 maximum and ammo is quite limited, so use them sparingly. So there we go, gate number 2 is locked there. We need to find a number 2 if we want to open that, and then so goes the logic for the rest of the game. I think you can have up to 4 numbered gates in the level. There's usually gates numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. There are also some gates like that one you see, you just caught a glimpse of there to the south, the one with sort of 2 blue doors on it. They can be shot open, you can blast them open, but if you use them, of course, you're using your very precious ammo. That's an ammunition thing we just picked up there. It takes us up to our maximum of 10 shots at the moment. And so we carry on looking out for all these, it's like green eyeballs, isn't it, or something, those that are chasing us. Nearly had us then too. One thing in the Amstrad version that we don't get, we never get any enemies shooting at us. That sort of happens on the Commodore from level 4 or 5 onwards, but not in this game. So gate number 3 is still closed there, we'll have to try and find a way around that. We need to get to that southern section of the maze, because we haven't done that yet. Oh, here we go. And right, we can blast that open if we want. There we go. And that'll open gate 3, there we go, that'll free up the maze a bit more. Okay. Tripping all these gates as we go through. Sometimes it's good as you go through to just sort of check up and sort of double trip a gate. Like that, because if they're open and you're just trying to get somewhere quickly, it's too easy to just carry on and you're closing the gates behind you and possibly the ones in front of you as well. So yeah, just check up every now and then, make sure you keep them all open if you can. And oh, a bit of a bug there as well. We've picked up that subatomic crystal, but it's still there on the lattice. Go, check up, open the gate. And again, check up, open the gate, because you never know when you might need to get through them. And there isn't always a switch on hand to open them. Oh, but that's the end of the level anyway, so there we are. And we're already on to level 4. So we've got 6 shots in our armoury and 2 warp crystals. The warp crystals you can activate by pressing the spacebar. At least I think it's the space, but it might actually, I think that might be the Commodore version. I think on my Windows keyboard, I think it's the backspace key. And if you use one of those, you get transported to another area of the maze. It's not totally random. I think there are a few sort of catalogue points that you can spawn to, maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5, something like that. And they can be very useful if you're getting into a bit of trouble, if you're getting pinned in by some of the enemies, or if you just want to get somewhere else pretty quickly rather than wandering around, because some of the mazes do get quite big by the end of the game. Just avoid that. Okay. So these are the time gates, we'll just wait for that to open. There we go, gate number 4 locked. If we can find a number 4 switch somewhere, that would be great. Another warp crystal to the north here. There we go, takes us up to 3. They'll be used. They're good to keep for later. Very useful in the later levels, when things get a bit harder. Same caveats apply though when using those. I mean, just as you may shoot an enemy dead and it can spawn on top of you, you can always warp straight on top of an enemy and lose a life. But that's just the luck of the draw. Yeah, just to continue with the jargon, it says in the instructions, it says each lattice is populated by subatomic nasties. Contact with these will disintegrate you. And some are also armed and will fire electron bolts with you. Fire electron bolts at you if approached. So, well, that's not true in this version, but this is true. It says you are in turn armed with an electropulse generator. And limited ammunition crystals can be found scattered around the pathways. Well, that is true. So just two, that was close. So just 2 more crystals to collect. And I was really hoping one of them was going to be there as well. You can see how your ammo can just drain away if you end up walking around a lot. Because I mean we're down to 4 shots now, almost out of nothing, and just in the blink of an eye. Now we'll have to shoot our way through there. Ah, well, there's one. Okay, just one to go. Running a bit low on time as well. The time is quite strict for the first 4 levels. The ribbon depletes very quickly. For the later level, though, it goes quite slowly, so it's not so much of a. There's not so much time pressure on you. It's got to be down here, surely, no? No. Where is this crystal? There it is. So the instructions say, to complete the game we've got to get to level 8, which is reaching the central molecular lattice, where your increased molecular weight will unbalance the intricate structure and thus release you in a spectacular nuclear burst. That's what happens by the time we've completed level 8. Quite how we survive this nuclear explosion or this nuclear burst is a mystery, but obviously we are supposed to. A lot of numbered gates now, lots of switches. So the official terms for all these gates, we've got time gate, those are the ones that open and shut periodically. The polarity gate, those are the ones that can only be opened by tripping the numbered switches. There are pulse gates, which need to be shot open. And the electro pulse crystals, that's our ammunition. Yeah, so I quite like this game actually. There's reasonably good gameplay in this. It's always a nice sort of 2-frame animation there, whichever direction you're going in. Or if you're standing still, sort of tapping his foot. Pick up 5 shots every time you pick up one of those ammunition thingies, but as I say, carry a maximum of 10, so be careful. Just as I say that, I waste one. Very, very nice music in this from Tiny Williams. Again, it's only my personal opinion, but I think the music sounds better on this Amstrad version. It sounds a bit more sort of, plinky plonky or, slightly spacey. And I'd probably say the sound of your gun sounds better on this as well. It's sort of like a squeak on the Commodore version, but it's a good sort of, good laser sound on this. So another electron trail traced there, and time to pick up the remaining crystals there, subatomic crystals. And you'll have noticed as well that when we complete a level, we're not getting the little bit of music at the level complete stage that we were getting in the Commodore versions, and we don't get a map either at the start of each level, which is a bit of a shame, because that would be very useful. It just helps you plan your strategy a bit. But those things aside, this plays very, very well indeed, I think. Quick word about the gates. Like here, there are 2 number 1 gates. Now, I think, as far as I've been able to make it out anyway, all of the gates of a certain number, they're either all open at the same time or all closed at the same time. It's never sort of half and half or part and part. Like they say, all the number 3s, they're closed. So it's not a case of remembering which ones are open and closed, it's a matter of remembering whether they are actually open or closed. I hope that made sense. I think I've probably said everything that can be said now about this, sort of explained the general gameplay and done all that, so I will just duck out of the commentary for a bit, let this run a bit, and I'll be back though with the usual, few comments and Retro Sheep review score towards the end of the video. And so we're nearly at the end of the game now. Not far to go. You've probably noticed that I've been using a lot of warp crystals in this level. And that's for a very good reason. It's because all the spawn points, or the vast majority of the spawn points, are in the 4 sort of corner sections of this maze. So by using those you can get to where you need to be very quickly, rather than completing one of the corners and then having to walk into this central section again and then go to another corner. The odds are that if you use a warp crystal you can get to a completely untouched area and fill that in. So basically, instead of tackling this level from the inside to the out, you can tackle it from the outside going inwards. And it saves a lot of time and a lot of ammunition. And those warp crystals, as you've seen, are also very good for getting you out of a bit of a tight spot. Because you need time to turn and fire at these things, and if you do that, the odds are that you're going to just run into them and lose a life. If you get too close to one of these green eyeballs, or whatever they are, there is a certain amount of AI programmed into this game. They will sort of follow you very closely, they'll be on your heels all the time, so warp crystals sometimes are the only way to shake them off. So that's very good. Also, a word about the shooting in this. On the Commodore version, you can only fire your weapon if you're also walking in the direction that you want to shoot. If you stop, stand still and press the fire button, nothing will happen. But the Amstrad has superiority here, I think, because it remembers the last direction that you inputted, and even if you're standing still then, it will fire your weapon. So that makes it a lot easier, because your natural instinct is to stop walking towards your enemy if you see them like that, and you'll fire. But if you do that on the Commodore, you'll be there hammering the button and nothing will happen, and by the time you've remembered to try and walk towards them again, they're probably on you. Yay! We've done it. And that's all you get to type in your name. Well, at least you get a sense of completion here. Unlike the Commodore, you don't just get sent back to level 1. But to add insult to injury here, they've forgotten to invert the scoreboard, and your high score goes straight to the bottom of the table. Oh well. And so that is Octoplex on the Amstrad CPC 464. I really enjoyed playing that, actually. It was very good. And once you've gone back to the main title screen, the only way to access the high score table is to play another game and get onto it. Otherwise you just sit here looking at the word Octoplex. But brilliant, brilliant. That was very good. Published by Mastertronic, 1989, and Alan Montgomery, N. Thompson, and Tiny Williams. Another great soundtrack. So, well, I'm sure you noticed there were a few little quirks and things going on when we did that playthrough and review. And so we'll just have another quick look at some of the things that were going on here. This was level 3, and there's the crystal, but it's still there on the screen. Importantly, though, we were registered as picking it up, otherwise that would have ruined the game completely. And then there was this one on level 6, that crystal going into the middle of the maze there. Very strange. And that's your loss of life screen. So I'm going to have to give this a score then. What percentage to give it? Well, the first thing to say is that it's a good puzzle game, really, and you know it takes a bit of thought. You've got to remember certain things, but it's still fairly basic. Having said that, I know I'm biased in saying this because I love the Amstrad, but I'd say it's close to mopping the floor with the Commodore version. And you've also got to bear in mind that this was probably released on budget back in the time, $1.99 or $2.99. So I'd say it has a lot of things in its favour. Not a blockbuster game, but extremely good value for money. So I'm going to give this a score of 68%. And that is probably one game I'll revisit occasionally. I do quite enjoy it. In fact, when I had this game back in 1989, I didn't get to play it for many, many years because when we used to load it up, the screen used to flicker all over the place. Now, I'm not an expert, but I don't know if it was something to do with misaligned tape heads or something like that, but the screen used to flicker up and down, and I used to keep loading the game up occasionally just so I could listen to the music, because that was one thing I could appreciate about it. I couldn't actually play it, but it always seemed worth it for the music, so there we go. If anyone has any ideas about what may have been causing that screen flickering, you know, I'd love to hear some comments or answers on a postcard, or I don't know, those things are probably defunct now, but can't really use that expression anymore. Okay, so that is it. That's the end of the review. That's Octoplex. I hope you enjoyed watching the video, and I'll probably have some more reviews in the future. Who knows? Cheerio for now.